Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be going over the unique helmet, which has kind of been usurped by all the beautiful mythic uniques and things. But it is the Godslayer's Crown. The Godslayer's Crown comes from Duriel and Adariel, by the way. It's pretty well known. But if you're looking to find out where specific uniques come from, definitely check out Diablo 4.life and the unique target farming tool that we have available. You can look up at pretty much anything on there and find out where they come from. Now, the Godslayer's Crown has been a pretty mainstay item for several seasons, and it got an update in patch 1.5.0, so we're going to be going over the changes that they made to it. First off, it has all stats now, so 28 to 42 all stats, which all stats is going to give you a decent bonus to basically everything. It's not really important that you have all stats, but it does help to activate certain paragon glyphs and things like that that require dexterity or willpower or strength when you're, say like a sorceress that has intelligence. So having some all stats can definitely come in handy in those situations. On top of this, all stats isn't just, for show, it also gives you other bonuses. Any point in strength that you have is going to give you increased armor. Any point in intelligence is going to give you increased critical strike chance. Resistances. It should be resistances. Why does it say critical strike chance? I guess for rogue, intelligence gives critical strike chance. Yeah. Yeah. Never noticed that about Rogue. But every single class has specific benefits that they get from each individual stat. Like, for instance, willpower gives overpower damage and healing received. Dexterity on the Rogue is giving dodge chance and skill damage, and so forth and so on. So basically, having all stats is definitely not a bad thing. It's going to give you a little bit of a bonus to basically every single stat that you have on your character. It also has 873 maximum life, which is pretty generic as far as maximum life goes. 873 seems to be like the standard amount that's on most items these days, and I've seen higher on like other pieces of equipment for sure. Damage to elites, which is specifically only going to help you with elite monsters. I believe that also includes bosses. The elite damage bonus is just a flat additive, so nothing really like too amazing there. It also gives you cooldown reduction, which is not even going to compete with the cooldown reduction on Harlequin Crest these days, which goes up to like almost 54%. But it's definitely still there, so you get a nice little 8% cooldown. This would be one to get probably with a greater affix and maybe put some masterworking into it. Now, the special effect on Godslayer's Crown is when you freeze, stun, or immobilize an elite, you will pull in all nearby enemies and deal 60% increased damage to them for 3 seconds. Now, 3 seconds isn't really a very long time. I mean, when you're in the middle of a battle, yes, it's going to pull them in, and you're going to get a 60% multiplier for those 3 seconds. But, like, the 60% multiplier for 3 seconds is not really an exceedingly long period of time, and you're not really going to be able to take advantage of it that easily. Most people, I think, utilize this for the free pull-in, not necessarily for the extra damage, but the extra damage does come once every 3 seconds, for 3 seconds every 12 seconds. So it's going to be active not all of the time, but some of the time. It does in fact work against bosses, because there's a special little caveat down there that says against bosses this effect triggers when dealing damage instead. So you're going to get the 60% times multiplier on bosses too for those 3 seconds. And when you put it on and you actually utilize it, it's pretty simple. You'll actually see the effect appear on your character when you freeze or stun a target. And of course it can only happen once every 12 seconds, so it's not going to always be on your bar. But for a character like me, as you can see, that I'm capable of literally freezing everything all the time, I could potentially have this up with a permanent, once every 12 seconds. So it would just always be up once every 12 seconds, which 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. So basically that's 1/4 of the time I would always have a 60% times bonus. So 3/4 of the time I would not have the 60% times bonus, which is... maybe that's useful, maybe it's not, I don't know. The free pull-ins that are happening on a regular basis certainly wouldn't be terrible, though. One of my problems, though, is I just have trouble putting it on over other options, like, for instance, Andariel's Visage, Harlequin Crest. There's a lot of very good helmet options these days, and I do feel like Godslayer Crown, although it is still a good helmet, doesn't quite live up to a lot of the mythic uniques. If you desperately need a pull in and you can't get a pull in any other way, this could definitely be an interesting way for you to add a pull in to your build. All you need is some form of reliable stun, freeze, or immobilize. Now, the only thing that bothers me about this is that it doesn't work against trash mobs. It only works against elites. So this is another caveat, another damage on Tuesdays thing. So I'm going to have to put the elite training dummies here. And then with the elite training dummies up, then we get the multiplier. And that's kind of silly in my mind because I would think it would be a hell of a lot better if it worked on basically any monster. If it was once every 12 once for 3 seconds every 12 seconds on any monster, but it's once for 3 seconds every 12 seconds only on an elite, which is not always going to be present, especially given a certain content. And so you're not going to get the pull in all the time because obviously there's not going to be elite present all the time. Will you stop trying to nibble on my neck? Neck nibbler? It's not pleasant. If you want to go in, then go in. You're thinking about it. Well, while you're thinking about it, don't nibble on my neck. Bite your ear. How about that?
Mr. Goody Two Shoes, Mr. Goody Two Shoes. Ginger Evil Mentor here. Why bother farming when you can go to MMOEXP.com and simply purchase your items in gold? GGM would have you farm the items. What a pathetic being. Use code GEM Ginger Evil Mentor for 6% off your entire purchase. And don't tell Ginger Gaming Mentor that I was here.
Now this one in particular drops. I think I already said it, but does drop from Duriel and Endariel. If you're farming Duriel and Endariel, you'll get this a lot. Honestly, Godslayer's Crown drops a lot. You'll have a much harder time finding a 60% multiplier with decent stats than finding one in general, because I've gotten like hundreds of them this season, it feels like, which isn't even really that big of a deal. It does have some flavor text that says, the Soptev faithful believe in 1,001 gods. If it takes me as many lifetimes, I will find and kill them all. Caspar, Stillbane, Verandi, Outcast. Now, I don't know what to say about this in terms of like builds, because every single time I put together a character, I might consider using this helmet, and then some other helmet like piques my fancy, and I end up going in that direction instead. Whether it be Andariel's, whether it be Harlequin Crest, whether it be Tempest Roar or Vasili's Prayer. There are tons of helmets in the game at this point that are all very, very effective at making your character a lot stronger. And unless you explicitly need the pull-in, this might not be the helmet for you. I do feel like this helmet is almost explicitly used for that pull-in effect. It does have the cooldown reduction on it, but there are better helms for cooldown reduction. And other than the pull-in, it really doesn't offer anything like super special, in my opinion, other than what other helmets are offering. Tempest Roar, Vasili's Prayer are build-defining ones. Harlequin Crest has better cooldown reduction, and Dariel's has an amazing poisoning effect, which does tons of damage, and also the ability to steal life. Comparatively against a lot of the other helmets that might go in those slots, it's not as good anymore. I'd like to see them revamp the pull-in, so that it's against all monsters and not just elites. So it's basically just like a free pull-in once every 12 seconds. There's other things that also pull in monsters now, like the Wild Bolt aspect, and honestly, there's a ton of ways that you can get a free pull-in now that don't necessarily involve Godslayers. So I'd like to see it at least be good against exactly what, like for the purpose that it's supposed to be good for, which is to pull monsters in. Other than that, there's really not a lot more to talk about with this helmet. I feel like I've already gone on too long. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining me when we're going over these unique items. I will be going over all of these, so if you're interested in seeing the videos for all of the 1.50 uniques, be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And as always, keep watching.